Juventini, welcome back to the All Juve cast. This is episode 9, and good morning, gents. What a fine morning. Winning the Derby Della Mole, and our boy Locatelli finding the winner. Boys, feeling good? You feeling great?
Torino is black and white. I'm finally on an all Juve cast where we don't shit the bed. It's good, you know?
Yeah. Lou's been dying for this one. Yeah, it's good. We've had to put in some rough shifts together. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's great to have you back, man. We're getting everybody back. Eric making his return yesterday, ended up winning the prediction calls yesterday. So congrats to Eric. You win absolutely nothing except pride. But take that. Lucci's with us, Cliff's with us, and boys, this is going to be a fun recap. Looking forward to this one. Thoughts going into this match? We'll get on everybody's feelings. We were pretty confident on the panel in the morning show yesterday. All predicted victories, some clean sheet calls as well. Finally, I think breaking the streak of 20 Serie A matches without a clean sheet. So that was tops. And of course, getting the victory. But how are you guys feeling? Because you guys, we were talking in the chat, whatnot. But we'll share your thoughts going into this one. Some Juventini out there were feeling this could easily be that trip up game coming off the big win against Chelsea. But were you guys all feeling as confident as we were on the morning show, or what? Let's start with Lou.
Yeah, I felt confident. I thought that we could get the 3 points. Torino have had a good start to the season, so I didn't think it would be an easy 3 points. It usually never is, but I was pretty confident we get the win and was riding high after Chelsea,
Yeah, absolutely. Cliff, how are you feeling going into this one?
So going into this one, I knew it was going to be a really tough matchup because the derby is always, very physical, a lot of difficult play. So I wasn't on the morning show like the great Eric and Anthony and Omer, but I thought it was going to be a 1-0. I actually was going to call this a 1-0 win for Juventus because I knew how tight it would be. But I felt good about the win.
There you go. Lucci, how are you feeling going into it?
Yeah, I was a little nervous going in. Ivan Juric is a very good coach, and he's done well with Verona. He's doing fairly well with Torino to start the season. But I was hopeful that we would get the job done. It was a little more nerve wracking than we had hoped, but Locatelli comes in and saves the day again. So gotta love it.
There you go. You do gotta love it. You do gotta love it. This was fantastic. We're gonna go through a quick recap in the key moments of this match, and we've got some graphics too. We'll bring them up and just touch on the talking points here. Really kicked off super strong for Juve. We're talking like a couple minutes in, and Keane ends up getting an opportunity basically from the exact same spot Chiesa did against Chelsea. Out wide there, you saw Chiesa arms down, wanting that ball distributed inside to him. But man, it's hard. And I even said with Chiesa against Chelsea, it's hard for these guys not to shoot from there. Keane was head down. He was always going to have this go. But yeah, unfortunately, it goes wide. Don't get anything out of it. Chiesa a little bit frustrated there, but is what it is. 5 minutes, a few minutes later, McKennie, it's a great opportunity on a rebound, and boys, should have done better or what? Like, it's tough because he's trying to hit it on the one time. I thought he could have potentially settled that. Hey, how'd you guys feel about that one?
Yeah, it took a kind of a weird deflection before he hit that, but I thought he could have at least put it on net, from that
range. Yeah, you're right. It started to go outside on him.
Yeah.
Like it looked like he was lining up for a volley fine, and then all of a sudden it took like a weird spin off that bounce. But yeah, I don't know. Lucci, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. He was very disappointing for me yesterday. That was one of them. There was a couple passes he misplaced. There was even a chance later, I believe, in the second half that he definitely should have done better. I don't know if it's a confidence thing with him or because watching him last year and this year, it's practically been night and day. So
yeah. Do you attribute that to last year, the amount of minutes McKennie was getting versus so far this season?
That could be one reason. I also think maybe Max wants him to do something a little different compared to what Pirlo may have been asking of him, where he's maybe not so comfortable. It could be a whole bunch of things, confidence, playing time, so on and so forth.
For sure. Alex P saying Weston is gone in his opinion. You never know, man. I don't know. Like after this whole America thing, and like he seems kind of shook a bit, and his minutes went down. Like in preseason, I don't know about you guys, but it seemed pretty positive about the words coming from Allegri in terms of Weston and everything. And I thought he was going to play more of a role. Lou, are you kind of shocked that we're not getting as much of him?
A little bit. It that role that they had him playing in yesterday, I think is tailor made for like what we saw from McKennie last year. So it is a little surprising that he doesn't get more minutes. But then when you watch like the play that's been shown, I assume it's probably similar in training. It's been very frustrating this year. And even towards the end of the last year, we saw a little bit of this. Something kind of went wrong with McKennie towards the end of last year that hasn't really been right since.
Yeah. Cliff, what do you think in terms of McKennie?
So I've always been a believer in McKennie, but this is one of the worst games I've seen him play. Just looked very lost. Was misplacing passes. Was out of position multiple times. Um, it's unfortunate because I think he has a really high work rate. We've seen him be able to go from one end of the pitch to the other and end up scoring. He's very useful in corners. He has a lot of really good attributes. He's not the most technical player, but when you have a high work rate and you're willing to throw your body around, you don't need to be the most technically gifted player. Um, but this is absolutely one of the worst games we've seen from him, in my opinion, and I think in most people's opinions. But I don't think it's ready. I don't think we should be ready to give up on him. He's only 23. He's still young. I don't think you could really replace a player like that. You could take off the bench or bring off the bench with that high work rate, that high energy, because we don't have a lot of players like that, at least in the
Yeah.
midfield, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good shout. But yeah, he's definitely got some work ahead of him. Got to pick it up. We finished the first half like again. We came out of the gate so strong. Then there's a bit of a wave, but not super imposing from Torino. We really just finished up with another opportunity late in the half by Locatelli on this particular play. Comes in, gets into a good shooting spot. Shot goes wide. A little bit of a late challenge. How you guys feeling? There were some shouts for potentially late challenger on a PK. What were your guys' thoughts? For me, it wasn't, but let's go around the horn with Lucci.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was a PK either.
Yeah,
just don't see it.
Yeah, Cliff.
For as soft as the game is getting, I think that's a penalty, in my opinion. If you're going to call a lot of other stuff, I think that's a penalty. Because it's a late challenge, in my opinion. He gets his legs. I think it's a penalty.
Lou?
Yeah, I don't think I'm with Lucci. I don't think it was, but Cliff does have a good point. Like what they call now, it could have been. It would have been soft if it was given, but
yeah. Like I mean, let's reverse the roles. If it were on us, we would have lost our minds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I'm okay with that one not being. So we go into halftime. Yeah, a little bit of a cagey start. Probably missing out on getting a few goals here, which we thought we could have really early in this one, which would have been huge. But it's okay. We move to the second half. We get a sub. Keane off, Quadrado in. Your guys' initial thoughts as that sub's made, Lou?
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I thought that maybe they were going to take one of the midfielders off because Rabiot and McKennie both had pretty terrible performances. So I thought that maybe they were going to go that way. But Keane also, had not so great of a half. So Allegri kind of went back to the false nine and, bringing on Quadrado was the move to make. So it was just a matter for who.
Yeah. Lucci and Cliff, how are you guys feeling about that change?
Yeah,
when it happened?
I wasn't surprised. I actually did think it was going to be Rabiot, though. I think he was very poor yesterday. But Keane wasn't much better, to be honest. So it is. Yeah, I was fine with it.
Yeah, Cliff.
Rabiot being poor. Wow, what a shocker. But
Easy
in terms
boys.
of Keane, I thought his movement most of the game, like he was making the right runs. It was just that he couldn't be clinical and he was missing passes. But I understand why he took him off because he was missing some chances. But Quadrado, as soon as he came in, he was an immediate impact. Impact. I love the move, and Allegri got it right in that one instance.
Yeah, and everybody here in the comments, Ivan Groh, it's great having him on. We'll usually see him out here. It's nice having him on. The move that changed the game. Alex P. Quadrado, humongous. Yeah, it was a big change. Impacted the game tremendously. We get back to the opportunities in the second half, and the second half was so strong from Juve boys, so strong. And we kick it off 52nd minute. Doesn't take long. Again, Quadrado with the ball. Sandro absolutely stonewalled from the keeper, point blank. Massive save, man. Massive save, keeping it level. But yeah, man, Juve's turning it up, cranking it on. 55th minute, we get a big opportunity from Quadrado, but his drive's stopped by the keeper. We get the 70th minute, Locatelli. Locatelli gets into a good spot, misses the target, and you see how upset he is after missing that shot. And it was a pretty long range effort, right? But he's just on himself, and I'm thinking, holy man, this guy, I don't know, man, it's just different with him. You could see everything, how much everything means to him. Even the littlest of errors, whatever. And he's been stepping up his game match after match after match. And in some of them, again, a lot of people hold it to statistics and offensive contributions and whatnot, but he does so much defensively too. I was giving him a lot of praise in the match day live. Eric actually called him out as being the man of the match in this one, and it was a great shout. 70th minute, he got a good spot, misses the target. 80th minute, we get a sub. Kulishevsky comes in for Bernardeschi. And this was the first time Kulishevsky made the right impact, I think, this season. It was a great impact. Would you guys agree with me on Kulishevsky finally making that impact?
Yeah, he looked like the Kulishevsky from Parma a little bit. He had some really good moves. He almost had a couple assists or two, and nearly had a great goal. It was good to see, because I think we're all kind of waiting to see that talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, boys, we get to 85th minute. The 85th minute. So we get a little bit of a build-up left side. Chiesa ends up finding our boy, Locatelli. Locatelli steps in, hits this thing, tips from the keeper, but not enough. Look at this. Delict just getting the best view. I'm behind. Sees that open cage. Loca, no mistake. Keeper just get tips, but that don't mean nothing. Beautiful hit from Locatelli. The celebration was everything. This was fantastic goal, boys. Exactly what he's brought in to do, which is boost our midfield and do something our guys haven't been doing, which is getting those goal contributions out of there. And this was just massive. Sick goal, boys. My question to you guys is, how much did you guys lose it when this thing goes in? Let's hear about these reactions. Lou.
This fixture, man, every time it makes me celebrate like Mourinho at the Olimpico. That's literally I was running around my living room like a madman.
Oh yeah, Lucci. I'm guaranteed Lucci's tarp came off.
I wish. No, I was actually at work watching it outside. I had to sneak away for a couple hours, which was, no one really gave me much hate, so it was okay. But I started screaming outside. I hope no one heard me, but it was definitely worth it.
That's awesome. Cliff.
I fell off my couch. I was screaming. I was rolling on the floor. I was so happy. I couldn't contain myself. And the thing was, when a midfielder scores a banger like that, it just hits different, man. Especially when Locatelli is considered a defensive mid. The fact that he scored that, he's got so much technical ability. It was just phenomenal. I was losing my mind. My parents were like, "What? Were you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, Juve just scored."
Oh man, so good. Anthony scared my daughter, pissed off my wife, don't care. So good. Yeah, guys, phenomenal match from Juve. And this is one of the things that's so funny, because for a couple seasons there, as Juve tried to regroup, tried to rebrand, tried to get this new identity, everybody was talking about beautiful football. this was beautiful football, boys. 1-0 game, but beautiful football. Juve could have taken them to the sword early on, but they didn't. And then what happens? The guy that we brought back, that we were banking on doing things like this, which was changing games with certain decisions, is starting to do that.
Mhm.
The biggest thing is not only is the team starting to find the rhythm, Allegri is starting to find his rhythm. And that's what bodes well the most for Juve, in my personal opinion. My summary on this game is just, again, Max pulling the right strings, and the mentality is starting to change, and you could see it. Summarize this game, just great amount of effort, determination, and focus for the whole 90 minutes. Another solid performance. I was happy with everything. Sure, there were a few performances, as we're going to get to the man of the match and our ratings. But overall, I'm ecstatic, man. Ecstatic with the turnaround and how the team's looking going into this break. Lucci, your summary on this particular match?
Yeah, like I said, it got a little nerve-wracking when we couldn't find one earlier, but the boys pushed, and it's nice to see that like Chiesa, Locatelli, even Chiellini was trying to get involved, trying to make something happen. You love when you see him, practically in the other box when it's not a set piece or anything, but it's good to have these young Italians that grew up idolizing Juventus, that want to be there, that want to play for the shirt, not there just for the money, because it shows in their play, and you can see that yesterday. Even in the past few weeks, it's starting to come out, and I think we're definitely right on, going on the right track where we need to go, where we need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Cliff?
So what I love is for Juventus, they have one player basically in each phase of the game where they have a leader. They have De Ligt out the back, who's going to be the future at our center back position. We have Locatelli in the middle, a commanding presence. And then we have Chiesa up top, who I think can become a leader. So you have one player in each phase of the game who can take control of their respective space. So De Ligt takes care of the back, Locatelli coordinates the middle, and Chiesa coordinates the forwards up top. I think it's just a perfect setting. And then moving forward, it looks like the mentality is changing, like you said, in these players. Locatelli's bringing a certain fino alla fine mentality, and all these other players are doing the little things. They're getting the little things right. You don't have to win 5-0 to be successful. You could win 1-0 and win a classic Juve match, as the past games have always been. So this is a really good step in the right direction.
There you go, Lou.
Yeah, I echo the sentiments. It's to get a win like that in the Derby, the push for that last goal and the 86th minute, just to keep going for it. It shows that there's a shift in mentality in this team. The last 2 years, I mean, we could have been down 1-0, we could have ended up a 0-0 draw. I mean, they didn't have that mentality, but now you have not just your old guard, Chiellini, Bonucci, who understand what it means to play for Juventus, but now you have Chiesa and De Ligt and Locatelli. Some of these guys just came off the Euro, Bernardeschi, and it makes all the difference. And one thing that I really like is, and this is different from the last time Allegri was here, is you always notice that Chiellini and Bonucci they're almost like assistant coaches. When they're on the bench, they're right on the touchline, and that is you need your senior leaders to keep pushing that mentality in the rest of the squad, and I think it's very translated to the pitch. I'm actually kind of surprised how quick it's translated to the pitch, because I thought this rebuild was going to take a lot longer in terms of mentality.
Yeah, I'd have to agree too. But again, these some of these younger guys are growing at a pretty solid rate, and it's fantastic. And we're getting what some of us called for out of Locatelli very, very quickly. And yeah, I always said, granted, if we believe that we're still missing a certain profile in the middle, I said, make no mistake about the impact that Locatelli will make on his own, because it will be big. And I always believed in this kid. And look at Lucci with the kid. I'm still waiting on mine. I'm so jealous, but he's got the nice Loca representing up there.
I think I was on a podcast with you where someone told us that he didn't score enough goals.
Yeah.
In the comments. Yeah. So whoever that was, take that.
Exactly.
How many goals do Barella and Tonali have this season? You want to start this debate?
Yeah. There we go. We could get fired up and go easy. Like a Serie A round table and light those guys up. But no, it's good. Pretty crazy stat line in this is that Juve new signings have scored versus Torino in 6 out of their last 7 matches, and all away games too. And Lou brought this to my attention. It's crazy. 15-16 we had Khedira. 16-17 was Higuain. 18-19 was Ronaldo. 19-20 was De Ligt. 20-21 Chiesa, and 21-22 Locatelli. Pretty wild, man.
Awesome.
Just wild, but cool stat. Always nice win in the Derby. Again, we're going into international break. We will get to that in a bit, though, because Anthony brought up a good question and a topic we wanted to touch on. Is it the right timing? Should we keep the rhythm going? I'm seeing this split on social media, but we will get to that. We're going to finish up with our man of the match, sponsored by Striped Hearts Apparel. Go check them out, stripedheartsapparel.com. Guys, man of the match. We're going to kick this off. Lou representing the Lealta shirt. Absolute beauty. We got a new drop too, and the Freddie Church tees are out, boys. Freddie Church tees. Okay, man of the match. Who wants to kick us off with their man of the match and also their lowest rated player? So Cliff's going to kick us off. Okay, let's go.
So it's our boy, Locatelli. Phenomenal. Game-winning goal, and played great the entire match. Was just commanding the midfield. Nothing else needs to be said on him. Worst of the match was, the Frenchman abroad, Adrien Rabiot. Absolutely awful, abysmal, as per usual.
Okay, there you go.
Aggressive. Cliff,
yeah,
aggressive.
very aggressive. Cliff's not going to make many French followers, but that's okay.
And he's not French.
Nucci, let's go with your man of the match and your lowest rated.
It's got to be Locatelli, just, for what he was able to do, not only scoring, but blocking shots, dribbles, tackles. The guy was all over the place. I do think Alexandro deserves a good shout, though. He found himself in some good spots. He played, I don't know who this guy is or what Allegri's given him, but it's ridiculous. And
He's
I
on
love
the
it.
Juice.
Yeah. For me, the lowest, it's got to be, Cliff's countryman, McKennie. He was terrible. He had better opportunities to score a goal compared to Rabiot. Shanked both. I don't think he completed a proper pass yesterday. He was tough to watch.
Left a lot to be desired. Let's just put it that way. I'd probably agree there. Lou, your man of the match, your lowest.
Yeah, so the man of the match for sure is Locatelli. I do think Alexandro is a good shout. He just looks so different back there. I mean, it's unbelievable how much of a U-turn he's taking, because he looked like he was done last year. The worst, it's tough. Both Rabiot and McKennie were definitely the worst two players, but I think I'm going to lean with McKennie there because of the missed chances. I love Weston. I'm a huge fan of McKennie's, but they were like Dumb and Dumber in the midfield there yesterday. I mean, they both were useless.
So, I mean, it's tough for me not to give Loca man of the match, and I will. I'll say Locatelli was man of the match. It has to be said how strong De Ligt and even the other D-men and Sandro De Ligt for me are in the mix. Quadrado could be an honorable mention. A lot of great performance, but it has to go to Locatelli in my personal opinion. The lowest, I would say it's between Weston and even potentially Keane. I think probably those two would have to be in the mix for the lowest. I think Cliff, this hatred for the French, man, it's getting the blinders on maybe a bit, man. But
hey, I am part French. So let me put that out there.
Okay, I mean, can you really blame him?
I have an anti-Rabiot agenda. This is the thing.
So you're not alone, Cliff.
We didn't even touch on the post a Kulusevski hit in like the 90th. I actually slipped through the skimming the highlights there, but yeah, he hits the post in 90th. We talked about it. He made a big impact finally coming off the bench. He really has to do that because it seems that Allegri is just kind of content with using him in that particular role. Do you guys foresee an opportunity that Kulu's going to be starting anytime soon, or the way the team's going, is he going to kind of be having to make the most out of just those cameos? What do you guys see for Kulusevski moving forward?
Yeah, I think that Allegri, kind of like everyone else, just doesn't know what to do with him. There seems to be a running theme with Kulusevski that nobody knows like what his best position is. I think he's a really talented player, but from the start, it's hard to start him from the start if you can't find like the best position for him. You almost have to enter him in the game when it's possible. So I think going forward, we're going to see him, at least for now, as a super sub.
Yeah. Cliff?
Yeah, I was going to say I agree with Luke because we saw last year he had moments of brilliance. I think it was the first or second match of the season last year. He had a beautiful curling finish, and I was like, "Oh man, this guy has some really good ability." But as soon as Chiesa started coming on, I'm like, "It's probably over for Kulusevski in terms of getting the start at right wing." I think he's out of the mix for that position. I think it's Quadrado and Chiesa on the outside on the right. I think Kulusevski might get spot starts here and there on the left, but I think right now he's best utilized as a super sub. And then, working his way into the team, if he puts on some good performances, he could really, start getting some matches. I think he'll play in like Coppa Italia and stuff like that. But I don't think he's going to be a set starter as of right now. But he could work his way into the squad for sure.
Yeah. Lucci, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're both right. I would like to see him get some starts though, and I thought yesterday would have been the perfect opportunity for him to start since Juan didn't play. You could play either Berna with the false nine, Kulu on the right, Case on the left. And I do agree with Enlightened Buzz. His best position seems to be right wing. Where he can cut in, he can pick a pass, take a curling shot, whatever it may be. I would like to see him. I start. I think that would boost his confidence a bit. Maybe he can score an early goal, get him going. Off the bench, it's a little tough. Maybe not playing in a particular position that he likes. But he was good yesterday. I have no issues with. He's been fine. I have no issues with him.
Yeah, and Gaylord coming in saying, to be fair, Uncle, he did well against Samp and a decent cameo against Chelsea and Torino and whatnot. I think, honestly, I kind of like what Allegri's doing because he's kind of just not throwing it out there for the sake of, and he doesn't need to. So it's almost like trying to push Kulu to earn that start, right? So I'm with him on that, to be honest, is like, get those cameos going and make it so that I kind of have to start you, right? So it's one way to pick it up because it's so different than what we were seeing before. Because before, even last year, last year was riddled with like the COVID, the injuries and everything, and it was like you couldn't do that. Like Pirlo didn't, like so many matches we talked about last season, he really had little options. You know what I mean? It was just like he has to play these guys.
Yeah.
And now when you're in a scenario where that's not the case, I think, the man management is massive. And I think so far, Allegri's done quite well, in my personal opinion, on how he's managing these guys, how he's taking care of the minutes and who he's playing. He got a little loose on one rotation. And oddly enough, after that game, we've won 4 in a row. So he's dialed in his substitutes now. Again, that's a couple matches where it's early and it's quick, and he's using them prior, and they've been the right calls, and they've been making the impacts. Again, a big key to this one, and Allegri could be in the talk for a man of the match again in back-to-backs because he's pulling the right strings and he's making the game changing moves. You guys want to touch on that?
Yeah, go ahead, Cliff.
So it's a little bit off topic for this, but in terms of, so first of all, like what you said, I think he's making the right adjustments, Allegri. He's starting to realize, how can I best utilize this team? He's making these adjustments, properly rotating the squad. But I'm going to keep saying this until I'm blue in the face or until it actually happens. Once Rovella gets into the mix, if they recall him from loan in the winter, I think you also give, Allegri more to think about. You give him an extra option. You don't have to always be stuck with Rabiot, Bentancur, and McKennie. Adding another young face to this squad, I think you can play a little bit more with this roster if you bring in Rovella. And people say, Cliff, why do you keep pushing this Rovella thing? Because honestly, if you put him in that squad, he may be young, but if you put him in some of these situations, I guarantee you he'd probably flourish alongside Locatelli.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say about Allegri, people need to remember that when Allegri left Juve and the Juve that we have now, it's very different. The league as a whole is very different. You know, like
Mhm.
we have 5 substitutions now. That is a learning curve for him. You know, a lot of the smaller teams, they don't park the bus anymore. Like they come after you. That's a learning curve. I think that Allegri had to like find his feet a little bit and adjust to how Serie A is, and he has. And now he knows not just that, but also like his team. You know, who he can rely on. You know, what can they do? And he's done really well, and he's really kind of stuck out. I mean, you know, Wes McKennie hasn't had great form, but to give him a nod yesterday because Bentancur needed rest, you know, he's sticking with his guns, and he's pushing, you know, some of these players. It's good. You know, I think that he's done a really good job to start the year, especially his last 4 matches. He's been man of the match almost all of them. You know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Lucci, you want to touch on this before we move on?
Yeah, I want to touch on Cliff's comment because I do like Rovella, but he's not coming in January. I'm going to agree with Ant on this one. I'm sorry, man, but you got to let it go.
Yeah.
Damn
Uh,
you, Lucci.
you know,
Hate it.
I love the kid. Don't get me wrong, but I think we'll see him in next season. But anyway, I like what Allegri, like you guys said, he's found his players that he wants to use. He has his setup. Now the players are starting to perform to their potential, and we'll see. You know, once Dybala and Morata come back, that'll only help. And you know, we look forward to the next few games. Roma will not be, you know, a walk in the park, so we'll have to bring our A game for that one too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Rob had a question coming in about Keane. Is he on loan with obligation? It is an obligation based on certain criteria. The criteria I'm not 100% sure of, but if he meets certain requirements, it becomes an obligation for Juventus to purchase.
Is it a
So that's
certain
just
amount of
answer.
appearances? Is it like a certain amount of games he plays? Probably.
I just said I don't know the details,
Oh,
Cliff.
I can only assume because usually when they have a stipulation like that,
Just
usually
giving
it's
you a
an
hard time, buddy. Relax.
obligation.
No, I'm not sure. I would assume that it has to do with appearances. I don't think they'd put a certain. Sometimes there are goals, like Chiesa's involves goals, hitting goals,
Okay.
double digits, I think, and some other performances as far as where the team finishes. And I would have to assume that Keane's is somewhere to do with appearances and kind of where the team finishes and whatnot, if I had to guess. But I don't have the details on it. But with Raiola there, I would have to assume it's easily met criteria and that it will be an obligation. He's not the type to put in obligations that just won't be met, right? So yeah, you'd have to expect that to happen. Speaking of Keane, he gets the call up to the Azzurri as Ciro Immobile will not be a part of it. We've got the Nations League, of course, semis against Spain on Wednesday. Keane getting called up. And I also just want to talk about the Azzurri in general and Juve starting to reestablish this connection. And it's something that Juventini have talked about for the past couple of seasons where we started to get away from that. Obviously now enter the mix Chiesa, Locatelli, Keane returns. You've got Bonucci, you've got Chiellini, you have Bernardeschi and whatnot. Coincidence that we're also starting to get that family type feel back into the squad? Because for a while during this decade of dominance, you always felt it was more than just a team. You know what I mean? And they always had that close knit bond and feel. Man, is it starting to get back to that? Does it feel like that for you guys? Let's kick it off with Lucci on this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you can tell, like I was mentioning before, you can see the passion in Locatelli, Chiesa, you know, along with obviously Bonucci and Chiellini. You know, they're there because they want to be there. They've played together with, you know, at the Euros. And it's just, you know, they're like brothers. They're family now. It's, you know, you go through that challenge, that tournament together, and you know, you get everyone becomes closer, and now you can see it on the pitch with Juve too. And you know, the more pieces you add, you know, maybe Rovella will be there one day. It's, you know, it grows, and it just, you know, it's a family. You love to see that. The way they celebrated the goal yesterday, like that was great.
Yeah, it was amazing, man. It's fantastic. And yeah, it's just again, I don't want to dwell on something that's in the past now, but that feeling was not the same over the past few seasons.
Mhm.
You know, it wasn't there. It was completely different. Bonucci's interview shed some light into a lot of aspects of this team that a lot of us Juventini had questions about, and that was how their mentality was, how they felt as a group and whatnot, and a little bit of too much over reliance on one key figure took away from the collective. Somebody else mentioned earlier in the live chat here, and I wanted to bring it up as part of this topic, but now our goals are coming as a collective. And we're starting to get contributions from a lot of outside guys, and it's good. It's what we need, and it's just a part of bringing everybody together as a well-oiled machine. And again, Allegri pulling all the right strings. It's coming together quite nicely. Cliff and Lou, I want to get your guys' take on how you feel about this basically reuniting with the Azzurri, the links there, and how you guys feel. Cliff.
You want to go? Oh, okay, I'll go first. So real quick, I want to touch on your point about the key figure. Off that, instead of it all being from one player, like 35 goals or whatever it is from one player, you're starting to spread the wealth. So you're starting to see the team kind of more organized. It's not going through one person. Okay, I'm gonna leave that alone now. In terms of the Azzurri, for Juventus teams in the past, we remember the backline of the BBC, Bonucci, Barzagli, Chiellini. Obviously, that was a backbone of the Azzurri for a very long time. We had a lot of Azzurri on those Juventus teams. We had Marchisio, Buffon. The names go on and on. I love to see them getting back to the roots of bringing in young Italian players, bringing in Azzurri players, because then you have that chemistry both at the national level and on the club level, and it makes it so much easier to put trust in your teammates and to know, like, okay, I'm getting the ball to Chiesa, I'm getting the ball to Bernardeschi. I know how they play. I know what they're going to do with this. I know they're going to find me if I get into the open space. You have that, like, that non-spoken, that non-verbal communication that you know the runs, you know how the player plays, and it's going to make the club team play so much smoother. So I'm really excited to see them bring in Locatelli, Chiesa, and it's getting that, that family feel, like you said, once again.
Yeah, Lou.
Yeah, I think there's a couple facets to this, but the first is, given our situation as a club, internationally, Juventus, like in the build up to buying Ronaldo, right? Juventus were an international brand. They had been to the Champions League final, 2 times in 3 years. There was a project that people from all leagues wanted to join, right? Now the project is one where you're looking at 3 coaches in 3 years. You're looking at exits to really bad, poor results in the Champions League, bad financials. You have to go back to where you can recruit, and that's domestically, with Italian players because of your brand in Italy. And I think that's been part of the mindset here is we're going back to roots. We're going back domestically because we have, dealing with Sassuolo or Keene. These are teams that we have dealt with in the past or players that we've dealt with in the past. And Juve just kind of stuck that out this year. And I think that the other part of this is the Azzurri thrived on Bonucci and Chiellini. They took the best parts of Bonucci and Chiellini and they just fed off of it all tournament, right? And you notice it with this team, especially how active they are on the touchline, is that Allegri is doing the same thing. He's pushing the mentality that he wants to this team through Chiellini, through Bonucci. That's why one of them is always on the pitch, aside from being great players. You have to have one of them because that's how you're going to drive your rebuild, is right through those 2 players who have won everything, who are great leaders and are great players, And I think another facet of that is Allegri himself, which is, to do his tactics, which are very pragmatic and very defensive and very, gut out results. That is an old Italian style, and you need Italian players to do that, really.
Yeah, absolutely. These are great points by all of you, but yeah, I mean, it could only bode well, really, for Juve, and I agree with Lou as well. It's just getting back to the roots, and maybe just Juventus realized they were stretching themselves, and the way they went about things was just a little bit off, right? But yeah, honing it all in, bringing it back to where we were. It's all good, and it's looking good so far. We climbed up to 11 points here. We're sitting at 8th. Obviously, you got matches today. Lazio, very, very nice finish there with Bologna. Love to see it. Thoughts with Jerry Mancini? Hopefully somebody could check on him. Yeah, he might be buried in Nutella right now, drowning his sorrows. But guys, Keane getting called up to the Azzurri. Keane seems to be one of the players right now that there's a lot of still 50-50 out there in terms of the fan base. And I see it all the time with him. A lot of people just thinking he's just not good enough for Juve. Not sold on him regardless of the goals at PSG. And think he was, a lot of the comments are just, he was sold for a reason. Shouldn't be back, and just a lot of faith, not much faith in him really. But I like the player. Always have. He's going back to the Azzurri. The biggest thing for him is he's got to get his head in check. That was always the question mark with him. But how do you guys feel about Keane? Lucci?
He was disappointing yesterday, I think, and going to the Azzurri, I'm not too sure if that's going to help him. I would have probably preferred him staying with Max, discussing, practicing, whatever, to get him on the same page. We don't know how long Morata is going to be out. Dybala might not even be back for the next match. So, you're going to have to rely on Keane to, do something, provide something, and definitely more than he did yesterday. That's for sure. So, there's no doubt the talent is there. He's just got to get, like you said, his head into it. He's got to, confidence is probably a big one with him as well. I feel if he can get a couple starts where he can bag a couple, that'll go a long way for him and Juve. So hopefully he can get it together. We're gonna need him, no doubt.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of his. I always have been. I like the fact that he could play across the front, and I've always liked that about him. But he's still young, and it wasn't a good showing yesterday. But I just don't understand the loss of faith in him and whatnot. Cliff and Lou, Moise Keane, and your guys' thoughts. Let's start with Lou.
Keane's interesting for me because I think there's a popular opinion. A lot of people see him as like a number 9. For me, I think Keane's more of a winger. I think last year at PSG kind of proved that. I've always kind of thought that he's more of a Mandzukic like type winger, or starts on the left, cuts in. But I just think that there's the fan base with Keane is really weird. This like weird expectation where when he was purchased this summer, like this guy's not going to replace Ronaldo, which he was never supposed to. Like that's a move for the future. He just needs time like any young player. As far as the Azzurri, it's a big chance for him because I think that he just missed out on the Euro squad. And this is a good opportunity for him to kind of carve his way into what could be the World Cup squad. So I'm excited for him.
Yeah. Cliff?
So for me, I could go on a whole segment and talk about Keane. I think he's a great player. And I disagree with Lucci. And everybody knows Lucci's my boy. We do his spaces together. So he's my guy. But in terms of going to the Azzurri, I actually think it's a positive because if he gets to go see how it's like to play for a very good collective unit with very good chemistry like they did in the Euros, I think he'll learn a little bit more about what it takes to really, find success and not just, individual players, but with one collective unit. I think it will help him grow. And I disagree with Lou. I think he's more of an out and out striker than he is a winger. He could play the wings if you wanted him to, but I think he's best suited up top. And like when I've heard people say, oh, he's going to be the next Balotelli. He's such a head case. One, he's not on the level that Balotelli was, at least in terms of talent wise, that Balotelli was at that age. 2, he's not a head case. I think he's just a very passionate, intense young man who's young and likes to have fun, like his little dance. People complain about his little dance. I think there's nothing wrong with that. He's just having fun. He's just 22, 23-year-old guy.
How many times have you practiced that, Cliff? It's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah. Let's just not hold in the mirror going like that.
But yeah, like in all seriousness, I think he's got his head on his shoulders. I think he's a fine player. I think he'll be fine. And I think Allegri is gonna, rein him in when he needs to, and he'll let him go have fun when he wants to. He's just still developing, and he's gonna be perfectly fine going forward, in my opinion.
I tend to agree. I think it can never be really seen not as a positive for a player going to international duty. I think it's good for Keane. The biggest thing is we got to remember, like Mancini kind of bailed on him for a bit too, right? So the fact that he's getting back to that is good, I think, and a positive, and should help him. And I think the errors that were there previously will be corrected, and he just won't do that anymore, right? You'd have to think. And again, there's a lot of potential there. And I think he's a solid player, and he'll grow, and we just need to give him some time. But
can I throw one more thing about Keane? I just forgot, but sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
The international break, people write it off because it's the Nations League and it's whatever, but it's a game against Spain and then one against France and Belgium, depending on how the result goes. That could only be good for Keane. Like if Keane comes on and he scores a goal in one of those, or he plays really well, or maybe he plays the number 9 role, like that's just another, that's more reps, right? So yeah, I think that, that can't be overslept,
Also, is he even going to play though?
He might. You never know.
You never know. And Eric coming in here with comments saying he's more surprised Scamacca didn't get the call over Keane, but that'll be for our Azzurri talk. We'll save all that for the Azzurri shows.
Can I say a quick thing, Al? The system also for Mancini is similar to Allegri. He plays a 4-3-3. So if Keane plays up top, he'll kind of understand how to play that role better once he comes back to the club team.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it can only help. I think these guys again, links with the Azzurri, chemistry, all that. It all plays a part, right? Rob coming in here with a question about Bernardeschi and his contract coming to an end. Does he get an extension? We want to not only talk about Bernardeschi, but Quadrado as well, as both of these guys need to extend. Quadrado, apparently the issue is time. From what I see, Lou, it's him going for 2 years. Juve looking at 1, I believe.
Yeah, the new report is that Quadrado wants a solid 2. Juventus wants to do 1 year with an option for a second.
Okay, there you go. So let's start with Quadrado before we get to Bernardeschi. Quadrado extension, 2 years. You good with that, Lou?
Yeah. Well, Quadrado definitely gets extended, but I think they should do the 1 year with the option for the second.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Based on his age, I think that's the ideal kind of thing. I love Quadrado, so if he signs for 2, you'll hear no complaints from me. But
even if it takes 2, Quadrado's got to be extended. Hey, Lucci, Cliff?
Yeah, I'm with Lou, 100%.
Yeah, I agree. He should be extended, but if you can't get that deal, at least in terms of the, try to push the 1 and the option. If you can do some sort of incentive, like if he gets, X amount of contributions, you do the +1 option or something like that. Just try to work something out because he's too good of a quality player to have missing out of that squad.
Yeah. And now we get to Bernardeschi. Bernardeschi extension. Lucci.
I think it depends how he finishes his season. He's had a couple good performances here. Hopefully he can grow on that and keeps, doing, something positive. He's already looked better than he has in previous years, I think, anyway. It's going to come down to the rest of the season, I think. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's not extended.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't rule it out. And the reason is just losing leverage on any type of deals, right? Yeah. Even if they try to move and whatnot. But it's an interesting one. Let's also talk about this before I ask Cliff and Lou the same question about extending him. How do we feel so far? Because the anticipation with Bernardeschi was, can he turn it around after, being a pretty important piece for the Azzurri in the Euros, bagging some clutch PKs, changed his number with Juve. How's it going so far? Does he still have to do way more to earn that? In your guys' opinion, if we look at the question that way, what do you guys think?
Cesc Bernardeschi is not great, not bad. It's good. It's all right. He really good against Chelsea. I thought his performance against Chelsea, aside from maybe the miss, which I think was a difficult attempt anyway, was really good. And yesterday he had some good moments, but that game kind of was not really suited for him, especially at the number 9 looked a little lost. We went false 9. I thought he played a little bit better. But as far as the contract goes, at the moment, I would say no. If you look at like what he makes now, like would you pay that again for X amount of years? You would essentially like have to try and go less, especially given our financial situation, which I don't think will be better in a year or two. But I mean, you never know. If Bernardeschi turns it around, which I hope he does, because I really like him as a player. Like I liked him when he signed, I'm for it. He could be a good utility player. He's a good locker room guy. He's just a good force to have on the team. It's just, can they carve a rollout for him? And until they do that, I don't think there's a definite, yes or no on the extension.
Yeah. Yeah. Cliff?
So it really comes down to, do you have anybody on that roster who you think can play that position that he plays? And I think you do with Kulusevski. You have a guy who could play cam, he could play center forward, he could play winger. So I think as of right now, it's a no for Bernardeschi just because you have a guy in the wings who could play those positions. But, let's see how, like Lucci said, let's see how the season plays out. Let's see if he improves. Let's see if he puts up decent numbers, because then our mindsets could shift a little bit.
I just want to add on to that, if you don't mind, Al.
Yeah, go ahead, because I was going to piggyback off that too, but go ahead.
Yeah, just to add on to Lou and Cliff, I think the problem is you let him walk for free. You don't have enough money to bring in someone else. So now you cause another problem, another hole that you can't really fill due to the financial problems.
Yeah.
I think if you can do a year or two contract, maybe at the same, maybe a little less, it would be you need depth, right? You need quality off the bench.
But the flip side to that is, if you add him and let's say Bernardeschi never turns it around, let's say, what if he gets worse, hypothetically? Then you have a player on large wages that, you kind of don't really know what to do with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think you can get worse at this point. We've seen him at his lows the past couple of years.
It's just hypothetical, but it's a double-edged sword. I get what you're saying, because you're right, because we might not be able to bring anyone else.
I've been saying Rovella comes in, but Rovella is a completely different position, so that does not come into my comment.
Well, Rovella can play winger. What are you talking about?
Well, the thing is that here's the thing with Cliff's comment about, you got Kulusevski that can play all these positions. I don't think that's true of Kulusevski, to be honest. I think the versatility in this kid's actually quite limited. I think we've seen him play in multiple positions. I'm starting to think he's just simply a pretty strong winger. To be honest, this, even in replacement of Dybala, I'm starting to really question it with him in terms of being that player in the hole, playing off a 9 and whatnot. I don't really know. I think he's pretty limited when it comes to the versatility. I will give the edge to Bernardeschi in terms of versatility, because he has gone everywhere except for center back. Center back and goalkeeper. He's done it. The one thing with Bernardeschi, he'll never complain, and he always gives you 150%. His work rate is huge. He proved that against Chelsea, and he's actually done it every showing this season. I think he's actually man, I think it's just people are still too hard on him. He's a weird case, though, because he changed his body composition from when he came from Fiorentina, and it changed everything. And I'm not sure why we ever faded from him as a right winger when he made good cameos in 17-18 as a winger. It always struck me as strange, but his body composition changed. He packed on more weight, muscle, and we never really went to him as a right winger.
I think that the coaching change really affected Bernardeschi a bit, because Allegri had some momentum there, and that last season, especially in Europe, got a lot out of Bernardeschi. And then, Sarri kind of used him in a weird role. And then Pirlo kind of was left with the damage done by Sarri. So I think that Bernardeschi could be a player that, maybe peaks a little later. I mean, he offers a lot to the team, and especially the fact that he doesn't complain about his playtime, and, he works really hard. I personally would like to see him in the Rabiot role in the left, like kind of the left side of the midfield. I think Bernardeschi could kill that role, but I don't know if we'll ever see it.
Yeah. I think the Bernardeschi one's it's an interesting one for sure in terms of a contract extension. It's definitely not clear cut, but we have some yeses, we have some nos amongst everybody here. But yeah, it all depends on how you weigh it and how you look at the team. Right now, if you look at this squad, the versatility is what's making us stronger.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you have the Danilos, the Quadrados, the Bernardeschi's that can just, plug and play in these other roles and do it happily. You know what I mean? And still play their part. And the biggest thing with Bernardeschi that I think helps him right now is something we've talked a lot about Allegri, which is it's not so much positions and formations and setups, but it's roles, what they're going to give you. And Bernardeschi, while the ratings I feel have not been fair to him, even in the Chelsea match, he's giving Allegri exactly what he's needed from him in those matches. Sure, there's always room for improvement, but you can say that even of our guys that are getting the top ratings, that there's still room for improvement. So it's hard to always be on certain guys because it's the flavor of the week, whatever. And it's just like, boom, oh, this is the guy this week. This is the guy this week. I'm Cliff. I hate Rabiot. This is the guy. But no, it's just, I think it's a bit harsh. I think right now it's too early to call on his extension, but let's see what develops. We got some questions coming in. I know that there was Vlahovic talk earlier on in the live chat, and well, what's he doing so far this year, right? Because that was another thing where all of a sudden, like, he's strong season, number skyrockets. What he's got, like 3 goals, 2 PKs, 1 in open play.
Something like that.
I think so, something like that. Yeah, Cliff, you know that you follow Fiorentina.
I have not been checking in too much, but I mean, from what he's done, I think Vlahovic is just, he's not slumping. He's just having a little bit of a slower start. But I mean, even a slow start for him is better than most strikers right now in Serie A. He's still playing very well. It's just that he hasn't had he's missed some opportunities, but he hasn't gotten the distribution that he really needs up top. But I think he's fine. I would prefer Haaland, but I mean, so would everybody.
Yeah.
I love this from RBCom. Sorry, this team is uncoachable. Allegri, hold my beer. I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, we should tweet that. That's funny.
Yeah, that's gold. But yeah, it's interesting with these guys. Vlahovic, again, how much of it do you weigh on just the fact that he's at Fiorentina, but Fiorentina's playing stronger right now? Because Chiesa, that was always the thing with him, eh? People were attacking him on stats, and I said, don't worry about the stats. That team is, as Anthony liked to say, they stink.
Yeah.
And Chiesa's a good player. You just got to watch what's in front of him. Vlahovic is a good, strong 9. No question. Is he worth the amount? Like, that's a lot. That's a big investment, right? So you got to be pretty damn sure. The other aspect of it, Morata, are we going to purchase him at the end? I can't really see it, but you never really know, because financially that's actually like half of going after a big guy. So all of a sudden the discussion kind of changes, where we were always like, no, flat out no, but it's kind of an interesting one, right?
I'd also like Vlahovic, his release clause is 80 million, right? Something like that. I don't, the hard part is, like, as much as I really rate that player, he'd be a great signing. Do we think Juventus pony up 80 million next year when they have to pay Locatelli, Chiesa, and maybe Keane? That's another, like,
Because the thing is, though, do you believe in Keane for your future? That's what it comes down to. Do you believe he's their forward for the future? Because if you do, then you don't even think about going after Vlahovic, because you have your guy.
Also true.
I don't know, because I don't see Keane as now as that lead, right?
Yeah.
He's beautiful coming off the bench and in rotation, but he's not like the guy. And the argument is Morata, that guy. So if you're halfway to a guy like Vlahovic, or do you stay with Morata? It's a tough one. And we got to keep in mind too, what's going to affect and impact this decision for Juventus is the fact that even with a 400 million euro bond at the end of this season, they're still slated to be somewhere around 129 in the hole.
Yeah.
Deficit. it's all relative, right? So we'll see what happens. We're going to go back to the international break for a second in terms of how it affects Juventus, but real quick, Caio Jorge had a little cameo in this one. Just want to touch on your guys' thoughts from the brief, little cameo that we saw of Caio Jorge. Lou.
I thought that Kyle showed a little bit of promise. I mean, there wasn't much to go off of, but his hold up play looked really good. He almost had an assist. He showed some intelligence in the game, and it was a nice cameo. It took me by surprise. I didn't think we would see him in that match.
Yeah. Just real quick before we get to there's a comment here about Vlahovic doesn't have a release clause. They're working on a renewal that includes a release clause. Yeah. So that's where the release clause comes into play, is that he's most likely going to sign and re-sign with Fiorentina, but the release clause will be in there. So that's kind of why that happens. Cliff, Lucci, Caio Jorge, and the brief glimpse of him.
So the short amount that he played, he showed a few little nice, balls at his feet, playing like, so he was stuck in the corner at one point, and he received the ball with two guys, flanking him on both sides. He was actually able to get out of it and pass it back and start the recycling of play over again. So it's just like the little things that I saw where I was like, okay, I haven't seen much of this kid, but he looks like he at least has the IQ to, make the right passes, make the right runs, but I need to see more of him for sure.
Yeah, Lucci?
For sure. And I thought he looked good. He's definitely got some skill in there, Brazilian player, and they always got a lot of flair in there. So hopefully Max can kind of rein him in and, bring him into certain situations without, where he can succeed, right? Because his confidence at 19-20 will be huge. But from what I saw, I know it was only a couple minutes, but he looked better than Keane did in the first 45. And I know that's a tough comparison and everything, but I think we're probably going to have a few more injuries throughout the season. I think he's going to get a couple opportunities to show what he can do. But he's, lots of room to grow, coming from the Brazilian league, still very young, but we'll see what he can do. Very, very promising.
Yeah. Again, I think the hold up play was promising, and I think it just it's more just because of what we were seeing out of the other guy in this one who struggled and whatnot. But he's young. I think he's going to get moments. Excited to see him play, and he could potentially add some, but he'll be in Coppa Italia and whatnot. And we always knew this from the beginning, that Caio Jorge was going to be very, very limited in terms of minutes. He wasn't on the Champions League list and whatnot, despite all the hype around this signing that came out of nowhere. That was just a young guy and whatnot. It was like, oh yeah, his dreams to play Champions League, wants to play. It's okay, I get it, but realistically, he was always going to be just kind of that guy that would probably be in some Coppa Italia matches off for rotation. Right now with Morata and him being back and Morata being potentially the end of October, the potential's there for some more minutes. So it's good to see him come in and, look up to it and whatnot. So again, it's only a couple minutes, but we'll see what happens there with Caio Jorge. The international break. Is this a good time for Juve? Would it be better if we continued on in the momentum? Does it have no effect at all? Your guys' opinions on this as we wrap up episode 9 here. Let's kick it off with Lucci.
I want to say it's kind of bad timing, to be honest. The boys were finally, they got the chemistry, they're gelling. Max is getting what he wants from the guys, and we're finally playing up to our potential. But I think with the Dybala and Morata injuries, it helps them because, they're not missing too many matches, which hopefully Dybala might be back for Roma. It'll be tight. But yeah, I wish we could have played Roma, next weekend. I would have felt, a little more comfortable coming, into that. And, who knows if anyone picks up some injuries along the way, who knows?
Yeah. Cliff.
Yeah, Lucci's right. It came at a tough time because, we're starting to play well. We're starting to get some momentum, and it's unfortunate. But like he said, it's also a positive because, Dybala and Morata need some rest. They need to get back to full fitness. So it's kind of a positive in a way. And at least some of these players like Locatelli, Chiesa, I believe those guys got the call ups with Keane. If they all play together, then they'll be getting the chemistry still. It's not like they're missing too much time, and you'll be seeing a lot more of the dance from Keane. Hopefully, he scores a lot more goals in the international break. We gotta clip that. We gotta clip that. He's doing the.
Stop it.
Thank you.
Lou.
Just give me a minute here. I gotta recover from that.
It's so good though. It's actually,
that's what I mean. It's like
You gotta clip it, man. We gotta put it on Twitter.
Guaranteed he just sits at home and like in front of a mirror, just practice that. Like
I
a million
don't.
times.
I'm just naturally gifted dancer. What can I say?
That's how you promote spaces from now on, Cliff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think answer right. It's a little bit of both. The answer is both basically. You know, it sucks because momentum, but it helps because some of these guys do need a little bit of a break, and we need to get Dybala back for Roma. And I'm encouraged that maybe he will be back. They're professionals. I think that Allegri will have them fired up. I'm more worried about like Chiellini coming back for Roma after playing in the international break.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like so. Yeah.
You guys are right. I mean, positive and negative. I mean, and Rob brings up here that Roma after a break is not a positive in his opinion.
I agree.
You always want to keep things rolling. Again, Dybala clearly wasn't going to go to international duty, so he's been kept back, which is great. If he can be back, that'll help us big time. It's both. You've got momentum now. You're rolling. Now you got an international break. Hopefully you can stay away from any type of injuries, you know, with the international break. Because again, one of the things with more ties to the Azzurri and then these games, right? You're at risk with your guys playing those minutes and something happening. Hopefully it doesn't. But I don't know. Yeah, the positive is, again, maybe Dybala's back right after for the first one after the break. And then you're okay. You get no injuries. I think we're okay either way. I think this team's grown quite a bit in the past week alone. The young guys, again, we're talking about the young guys, contributions and what they're going through and the adverse situation. Falling down so early could have been exactly what we needed to kind of spark the growth quicker in the young guys too, right? So everything happens for a reason. And this team, if we keep it rolling, quietly keep climbing that ladder one rung at a time, and you never know. The last question, which was hit with me on social media, was, are we and can we become contenders still this season? And that's going to be our final question to you guys as we wrap up. Can Juve get to a point where they can actually contend for that title after that slow start? We're at 11 points now. Not really far off if you look at it. Can we do it? Where's your sense of belief? Where's the belief at?
I think so. I think so. I think that there's a long way to go in the season still. And you know, Simone Inzaghi has had issues in the past with kind of like going the distance with Lazio teams. Inter have a better squad than Lazio, but you know, it's there. You know, Roma, Napoli, they're still, as well as they played, there's still that, can you go the distance? And that's the thing that decides the title race. And if Juve gets some results against Roma and Murder when we come back, that's a whole nother title race. So they just got to keep stacking up the wins here.
Yeah, absolutely. That Roma one will be key. But yeah, and Napoli right now, you know, 6-0, 18 points. Can they keep it going? You know, but Cliff and Lucci, what do you guys think? Can we get in there and start contending for that top spot?
So I think right now we're still in top 4 contention, and can we contend for Scudetto? Of course. I think it's still very early on. Anybody can. It's really anybody's race, and I think if we keep stringing together these good wins, we keep the momentum going, I think there's a really good chance. And Anthony is very, very confident.
Oh
He's
no,
always a
the prediction
100%
guy.
Bad news already.
Yeah, we're gonna start calling him Mr. 100%. But I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, yeah, I know, Anthony. What the hell do I know, right? I work in insurance. What do I know about
Live
golf?
from the boiler room.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, they have a good a chance as any. But I mean, ask me in the winter, what I think our chances are, because once stuff starts catching up with teams, injuries, fatigue, that's when you see the real, that's when the fino alla fine mentality is going to start kicking in near the second half of the season to see if we can keep pushing through.
Yeah. And there's going to be teams affected by the African Cup as
I
well.
was just about to say that.
And
Yeah.
we have to think about that. And Napoli's going to be one of them. So that could be a key point of the Serie A race, is how they manage that situation. Lucci, your level of belief in Juve and where we can go.
Yeah, I'm still optimistic. Top four, I think, is very, very achievable. Scudetto, I want to say yes, we're still in it, and yes, we can do it. I want to see how the next two matches go, though, because those are going to be huge. Two contending teams really ahead of you that you got to get some points from. So if those go well, then you're right back in it. You're right near the top. So we'll see. Well, I'm optimistic. I'm gaining confidence as the wins continue to stack up. So hopefully we can keep that up.
Absolutely.
There-
Absolutely.
There's also one factor. Allegri is a very patient manager. Just in general, he's when he talks about like the Champions League, right? He always talks about how it's the group stage, and then it's the round of 16, it's the quarterfinals. So that will go to the players. Hey, there's still a long way to go. And he will he will definitely have that instilled in them, and I think that will help a lot.
Yeah, and I love Eric's comment. Napoli will be
Yeah.
affected by Spalletti being their coach.
I 100% agree, Eric.
Yeah. It's far too early. Like Annie making a great point here. It's a strong Serie A this season. Like Allegri said, it's easy to earn points and easy to lose points. I truly, truly believe, like, even with the teams amongst, there's so much parity that they're gonna jump and hop around and whatnot. Juve top four, I'm not concerned about this season. Can we contend? I think so. I think so for sure. I think come the end of the winter there, we'll get a good gauge of exactly where we stand come winter. But I think this team, they've got everything to do it. It was always just going to be a matter of putting it together, and Allegri's starting to do just that. And now the wins are coming. The sense of belief in the players, they always talked about it after the slow start too. They just have to pick up their confidence. But that comes when you start getting results. Now we're starting to get results. So things are trending upwards, which is good. And you know what? There's this thing around Juventus that I absolutely love, but as we start to get stronger and as we start to get in the mix, you see it start to affect the other guys mentally. And it just happens. It just always does. And I'm here for it. And I'm going to love every minute of it. I love Anthony's confidence that the Scudetto is inbound. I hope so. And I believe they can do it for sure. I 100% do, because again, we're seeing the amount of work that Allegri's done. Lou touched on it, just how quick the mentality is starting to shift in something that I think we all believed was going to take a lot longer. This team will continue to grow. We are getting stronger by the match. And you know what? Yeah, why not? Let's get that Scudetto and bring it back. Bring it back where it belongs. The Snakes were gifted it at our own errors and whatnot. Won't happen again. Juve's taking the Scudetto. I'm with you, Anthony. Whatever. He won 1 week of predictions. Can't be that bad, eh? Can't be that bad. No, we're going to do it. This was a massive, massive victory, though. Looking forward to the international break. Everybody that's listening to this on audio, get over to YouTube, take part in these live chats, subscribe to the channel. And for the Azzurri lovers, we will have a pre-match live before the semifinal in Nations League against Spain. We're going to have a fun Azzurri chat. And we're probably actually going to do it the day before and just talk Azzurri, have a good Azzurri chat. And then we will cover the match after and just talk about that semifinal against Spain, which is hopefully a victory, and then look forward, hopefully, to a final. Maybe they can add some more hardware, even if it's something nobody really holds that highly. Whatnot is still always good. The big thing is, does the streak continue for the Azzurri? We'll see. But right now, I'm going to celebrate. We're going to enjoy the rest of our weekends. Massive thank you to our panel, Lucci, Cliff, and Lou. Lou, don't let it be that long anymore. We missed you around here. Good having you back. And thanks everybody who took part in the live. And as always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Okay, Torino is bianco-nero, the way it's always been and always should be. Forza Juve, fino alla fine. We'll talk to you next time. Ciao.